All right, Nancy.
Hi.
Nancy, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in West by God, Virginia. We say
Which part?
town called Parkersburg.
Oh yeah, up north.
Yeah, it's right on the Ohio River, and very very cool place to be born. It's from what I hear, Wheeling, which is just down the street, is was voted safest place to live in America. So grew up, didn't lock your doors or whatever, but unfortunately, just because it's voted the safest doesn't mean things are always like that. Like I was just mentioning, my older brother was murdered, but right in front of my younger brother, at a cake party by my sister's boyfriend. So that was a little craziness, and he just
What was your family like?
um crazy. I'm actually the only child of my parents. However, I have stepsisters, stepbrothers adopted and such. But technically, I'm the only child. My father passed away when I was like 4 years old. Um, my mother's first husband passed away. My sisters were 4, 2, and 6 months. So then she met my father, and ironically, they were born on the same day. My father and the sister that was 6 months old, right? So he was around until I was 4. He was actually murdered. He was a police officer, and his high school sweetheart was married to the chief of police's nephew, okay? And I guess he was beating her or something like that. So, my dad and her were high school sweethearts. She calls him up, whatever gets about. The man murdered her. And so my dad was trying to intervene or something, I guess. He got laid off, suspended or whatever from the force. And eventually he ended up dead with, they said he fell off the back of the pickup truck and he was loading hay, helping a friend. But, his head was crushed, so. Many years later when I was like 40-ish, something like that, ironically I was at my mom's house, and the nurse that was there the night that he was brought in was on her deathbed, and her name was ironically Nancy too, but she wanted to call my mom and let my mom know that he was murdered, and that she was sworn to secrecy because they wanted it covered up, and she said that everybody who was involved with that has now passed away, and that she was on her deathbed and she couldn't go without letting my mom know that. And it was crazy because I just so happened to be there, and I answered the phone when she called. I hadn't been there in 7 years or something like that. So it's vindicating on the level that I knew it, kind of thing. But at the same time, still, I lost my father. So
West Virginia's crazy, isn't it?
it's crazy, yeah. It really is, because everybody's toting guns and living how they live, and there's not a lot of policing done. The sheriffs all know you by first name and stuff, so it's a lot different than LA.
So how would you describe your childhood in general?
Well, like I said, my father was the second husband my mom had lost, so she was a little estranged, I guess. She wasn't there emotionally. Granted, she just went through this twice, and she felt like she was a jinx, so she marries this guy who actually ended up being my first cocaine connection when I was 13. And he just did a lot of drugs and ran around and cheated on my mother a lot. He actually took a life insurance policy out on her and had her run off the road on a motorcycle. Crazy things like that. It just a lot of insanity. So eventually, by the time I was about 12, my mom met the man who raised me from that point on, if you want to say raised. But he was there. He's the father figure from that point on. Yeah, so at 13, though, I'm sorry, let me back up. He was a traveling insulator, so he insulated nuclear plants all around the country, right? So he was always on the road. She wanted to be with him. He made her happy, She just wanted to be happy, of course, and she left me and my 17-year-old sister together in her home. Now, right about this time, I had actually gained my first stalker, first person who stalked me. Turned out to be a serial killer. He was a cross-country killer. They killed him on death row in 2014. Tommy Lynn Sells was his name. He said he stopped counting at 80 people.
What was his name?
Tommy Lynn Sells. S-E-L-O-S. Yeah, he hopped train hop. So he went, all over the country killing people. He broke in my home. My mom had 2 houses on her property. The back house, no one was supposed to be living in there. My bedroom actually faced the back house, so no one was there. I didn't keep my windows closed, nothing, lights on, whatever. So one night, my boyfriend and all my friends had went out. They went on a beer run or something because the town we lived in was dry. So they had to go up the road to get beer. He forgot his ID, and so he came back. But in the meantime, this man had broken into my house. He was in my bedroom. I went upstairs, and he just attacked me. The first time I spoke with him, I said, "Oh, you scared me," because he ran up on me. And he's like, "That's not what I intended to do to you." I was like, "Oh." So I ran to my friend's house, and he stalked me from then on.
Where did he meet you first?
He saw me walking, because I would walk across the train tracks over the hill.
Oh, so he didn't know you at all?
Didn't know me at all. And just ran up on me one day, and I said, "Oh, you scared me." And he said, "Well, that's not what I intend to do to you." So I just booked it. I took off running, because I would pick up my girlfriend, and we would walk to school together. So I just ran to her house, and just basically stayed inside until he left, you know what I mean? But he waited outside for us for half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. The police told us to take another route to school. They can't do anything until he touches me. So eventually he does. He breaks in. He had my mom's back house. He had chairs facing my bedroom. He was smoking the same brand of cigarettes that I
So he
smoked.
came back?
Yeah, he was like watching me from the back house, and had no idea. So when he broke in and attacked me, it was crazy. My boyfriend happened to come back. He jumped out the window, second-story window. He jumped out the window and went back to the back house and was on the balcony of the back house watching my boyfriend talk to the police, because my boyfriend called the police. And he's like, "Who the hell is that?" And of course, we were going in from down one way. He was exiting another way. He got away. He got away from my mom 3 separate occasions. She's chasing him down in the vehicle, and he would just hop a fence or hop on a train, and he was gone. He got away every time. But eventually, he was caught, because in Texas he slaughtered the whole family. But the daughter, she survived. He had slit her throat. She ran like a mile or a quarter mile or something with her throat slit, and called the police, and they caught him in the act. That's how he finally got caught.
Wow.
Yeah, so he murdered his wife, his son, his stepfather. Yeah, he was just crazy. I guess he did a lot of drugs. He was a carny. Did whatever. But
You were so lucky?
I was very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. And needless to say, that's not the first serial killer I've encountered in Florida, because I moved to Florida when we lived back and forth my younger years, but I ended up going to school and stuff in Fort Lauderdale. So, like I said, my mother had left me at age 13. By the time I'm running the streets, doing, whatever I got to do to survive. And I was just a street kid at that point, but I still went to school. You know what I mean? I still knew that was important, and needed to do that. So on the weekends, we would go down to the Strip, Fort Lauderdale Strip, and all of us would hang out. There was 10, 15 of us, we'd always hang out, young kids, ages, 13 to 18 or something like that. But yeah, one day, doing what I had to do to survive, I jumped in a car with this guy, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly what he said or what he did. Oh, I remember. He didn't have the to pull the locks on the doors. There weren't any on the doors, and the door was locked. I was like, oh my God, there's red flag, red flag immediately. So I just kind of like did this number, and like, by the grace of God, I got it unlocked, and I jumped out at a red light. But he killed 4 girls that weekend.
Really?
Yeah, but he was caught right away.
But you were working the streets as a prostitute?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so eventually you got into dancing?
Yeah, eventually I got a gig modeling lingerie and swimsuits, and I was 14. But it was called Chantilly Lace is the name of the company. We went around to bars and sold tickets for the lingerie, and like I'd model like 5 outfits, whatever. People would raffle it off, or raffle tickets, and they'd raffle it and win the outfit that I was wearing or whatever. And she also did runway shows. She did things like that also. So I started doing that, and eventually that led me into stripping. I started working for the Dollhouses. It's a chain of gentlemen's clubs, high-end gentlemen's club. They had the Dollhouses, Pure Platinum, and Solid Gold. I worked at Solid Gold because it was not fully nude. It was we had to wear pasties on our breasts, but we wore G-strings and we gave lap dances, right? If you were fully nude, you could not touch the customer at all. You had to be on a table with your knees together. And I for whatever reason, at that point in time, I was too shy to go fully nude. So I thought that was a little safer route.
This is West Virginia or Florida?
No, this is in Florida. This is
Florida.
in Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I moved down, by this time I moved down there. And yeah, so I was too chicken shit to do it fully nude. So I went with the, bikini route. But it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I made a lot of money. Met a lot of nice people, good people, rich people. We would go out on. They had their own yacht. We would go out and do little cruises through the bay. Showing off and promoting the club and doing all that stuff, which was a lot of fun. It's very flattering. Especially when you're a young girl. It's like you get a lot of attention.
Is that?
And I was underage too.
Oh, you were?
I was underage. They didn't know that at the time, but they didn't check too hard either.
But that was esteem building, doing that kind of work for you?
For me, it was. Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed the attention. I enjoyed the money, of course. Yeah, I like it. I don't have a problem with it. I've never been embarrassed by it. I've never had any issue with it. I think that we're doing a lot of good. We're making people happy. You stand in front of God one day, if we get a merit for how much pleasure we brought people in the world, opposed to pain, I think I'll be pretty much up there on the scale.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, So, how can it be wrong? We're grown adults, well, grown adults, but 2 adults consenting to make each other happy. God made it to feel good, so it should feel good, right? So what's wrong with that? I think monogamy is maybe a good idea for some people, but it's not realistic. You can't expect somebody to just sleep with you for the rest of their life, or not be attracted to anyone else, That just, to me, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. If you can, I don't know, a lot of people don't understand that. Just because love is love, sex is sex, and money is money, in my opinion. Just because I love someone doesn't mean that I'm not attracted to another person and that I can't have sex with that person because I'm in love with this one. You love your mother and your father and your siblings. It's all a special kind of love, right? So I don't know. There's not enough love to go around.
Have you been married?
Yeah, I have been married one time. I'm technically still married. We never divorced. I don't know why we never divorced. I was married for 10 years together, and eventually I caught him and my best friend in the bathtub together, and they had been lying to me for like 2 years. I knew, I also have a theory that if you sleep with someone, lying to them, those days are over. You know what I mean? Like, you connect in a way that you just can't lie to that person anymore. Same thing with your parents. We come from their essence. How are you going to lie to them? They know. You know, whether they choose to admit it or believe it. But yeah, just lying to them is just ridiculous. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay there?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So I started out, you know, stripping for them, the dollhouses and solid gold, and eventually, they offered me to open up clubs for them across the country. Right? They were opening up 4 clubs, 5 clubs, something like that. One in Clearwater, one in Dallas, Texas, and another in Hollywood. Then, it was great. I went up to Clearwater. We got stuck there for an extra week for some reason. I'm not sure why. But we had to survive, so we we had to find another strip club. Whew. Straight brothel. It was called Venus something or other. I walk in the door, and this chick's on stage, and she's literally like squirting breast milk across the stage to this guy's mouth. I was like, I was shocked, you know, I was a young girl, I was 18, I was just like, oh my God, where are we at? Because I had my friend Katrina with me, and we went together to do these openings. But yeah, and it was fully nude, and it was just a straight brothel. And they had the back rooms doing everything.
There's a lot of other
extracurricular activities
that goes on at strip clubs, right?
Huh?
There's a lot of extra activities that go on at strip clubs.
Oh yeah. Besides, you know, sex and stripping, drugs, and you know, fighting and drama, and you know.
There's a lot of sex in the back rooms too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on.
Depends on the club.
It depends on the club. I mean, if it's a gentleman's club, they're a little more strict on it because they're up on their license and all that kind of stuff. Where a place like that, Venus Place or whatever. Not so much. You know, they probably shouldn't have even been open because it was just on hygiene alone. It was gnarly.
So you were to strip clubs for how long? How many?
Until I was I got into a car accident when I was 19. So it was kind of short-lived, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I experienced a lot of things. You know, I went from Clearwater. We went to Dallas, which was amazing. It's called Fantasy Ranch, and I believe it's still open. It's called the Fantasy Ranch, and it had 7 different rooms, 7 different stages, main stages, different, you know, BDSM, doctor, and, you know, just all these different fantasies that, you know, most people have, and so you get to go in and fit the part, you know, and, you know, be on the main stage for that show, and then they just did a rotation, you know. But it was also a high-end gentleman's club, so we made a lot of money. But, you know, it was just a gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful place, you know. Everything was, you know, just top of the line, you know. That was the first place I saw someone get flogged. And it was a big old cowboy. And I was like, and the little girl, and she's just in the BDSM room, and she is just letting him have it with the bullet. Just, psh, psh. And he, oh wow, he was screaming, and it was like a big old burly guy, you know what I mean? And you would never expect he's on all fours getting beat, you know what I mean? It was fun. It was good times. But yeah, so eventually that led me to the Hollywood Club, which when I got here, they decided they weren't going to open anymore. So here I am, California. What are my options, okay? I ended up going to the Seventh Veil, which
another strip club. Yeah,
another strip club. They had the Seventh Veil and they owned Crazy Horse, and Crazy Horse was topless and Seventh Veil was fully nude. Now, mind you, I have never, you know, until Venus Place, never danced nude at all. So I was really, really scared about doing it, you know. But it ended up, you know, a lot of fun. Raising hell at the Seventh Veil, you know, and we sure did. I mean, the bouncer's name was Animal, you know. Guys wouldn't pay. We'd kick beers off onto him, ashtrays, whatever, you know, kick him in the face if we wanted to. Like, it was just crazy. And the bouncer, all we'd have to do, and he would pick him up by the neck and escort him out, But yeah, we had don't get on that stage and not tip. It's not a good idea because you're going to wear your drink and the ashtray, and be lucky if you don't get a spike heel in the face. But yeah, so I worked there, and it was really nice. The owners loved me. They actually gave me insurance, health insurance. How many strippers do you know that have health insurance? But one of the owners, he was, head over heels for me. He would throw $100 in singles on the stage every night to get, set my night off. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. They had a lot of sheiks that came in because they were Iranian or something like that. So they would have sheiks that come. I mean, they would pay girls $10,000 just to turn them down. Yeah. It was crazy. They liked the after hours clubs, or they like to have after hours parties, what I mean? So they would come into the club and pick out which girls they wanted, and yeah, pay a girl $10,000 to tell her, oh no, you're not up to par or whatever. Because they're princes and they could get anybody they wanted, So they thought anyway.
So they enjoyed being rejected?
They enjoyed doing the rejection. They enjoyed telling the girl, oh, you're not good enough.
I see.
You're not good enough. Get out of here. Here's, just throw 10 grand at them.
Oh, interesting.
They did a lot of cocaine. They loved, but that wasn't really my style because I didn't they'd like to humiliate the women, and I wasn't down for that. I think it's a beautiful art, dancing, seeing a beautiful woman, bare, it's natural, it's beautiful, What's more beautiful than that? Maybe if she's pregnant, maybe. Maybe that's the only thing I can think of. But they like to humiliate the girls. And so I hated that part of it. But they treated me so good, I wasn't going to tell them no if they asked me to go. So I would always go. And fortunately, I'm personable. I can, pretty much get along with most people. And so I didn't really ever have any problems. No, they weren't really mean to me, but outside of the regular normal stuff. But I saw them be very mean to a few of the girls, making them eat something off the floor, just ridiculously humiliating these girls. And it was just really sad. They actually paid to have them brought over to their palace. They would pay girls to go over there, but you're basically their hostage when you got there because you couldn't leave, you couldn't associate with anybody, you couldn't tell anybody where you're going, and you had to stay there between 10 to 15 days or something like that and do what they want. And I'm sure that they were doing that stuff here. God knows what they were doing over there to these poor girls. I wouldn't go. I was too afraid to go. I was afraid what they would do.
Have drugs been a part of your life?
Yeah. I started doing cocaine when I was 13.
Yeah, you told me that.
My sister started getting me high at 7 years old with weed.
But I mean later in your life.
Oh yeah, I've basically continued since then. I started, about age 13 with cocaine, then I graduated to speed and then on to heroin. I broke my neck and back when I was 19. So that basically kicked off my heroin addiction. I had started already using it, but that just set it in. After that, I did it every single day. It never made me sick unless I didn't have it. So my body just automatically was like, oh, you have arrived. This is what you want. This is what you're craving. But I would always do what they call goofballs, which is methamphetamine and heroin mixed together. And I did that till the present day, I've done that. I was sober for 5 years. Relationship took me out on that one. Number one reason for going out is relationships, I guess, so they say. And but yeah, drugs have always been a part of my life. When I was 14, I met my first true love, or whatever I like to call him. He and I sold LSD, we sold weed, Coke, whatever we could sell, you know what I mean? So needless to say, I've done a lot of hits of acid because we had to check it, of course. You know, we had to check it to make sure it was clean before we sell it. So I've done a lot of hits of acid, and I had a lot of trips and a lot of good times.
Do you have kids?
Unfortunately, no. I've been pregnant one time, but I miscarried. So I have had custody of my goddaughter, 2 of them actually, for approximately 5 years, the last one. But her mother actually went and said to the judge, I don't want her, but I don't want her to have her. And they took her from me. They took her from me, which was just, I couldn't, she's lived with me since she was 6 months old, till she was 5. Her mother's boyfriend was molesting her, and they took her out of my care, and just crazy. Just craziness, the way the system works. It's just really crazy. And I haven't heard anything from her since. They wrote me one letter and sent me a picture of her and said that they put her on something, Ritalin or something, because she was acting out. She was out of control. And she just looked completely looped out in this picture. And I was just like, how is that better? I mean, she's obviously acting out because she's never, you rip her out of the only place she's ever known, her only sense of security. I mean, I never had to, discipline this little girl. She ate everything I cooked. She was just great. Everybody loved her. She was spoiled rotten, no problems ever. And she just gets ripped out of her home. And it's just crazy. Her mom had actually kidnapped her, and that's how I found out that she was being molested. She kidnapped her. Like 3 months later, she calls me up. Oh, can she come by for the evening to spend the night or whatever? By the end of the conversation, she was back with me, and that was that. She was back with me. She couldn't have her there because whatever reason, whatever excuse she gave, it was bullshit. But yeah, so I had her back, but then I realized that she was being molested, and so, of course I felt like I was protecting her, and so I called CPS, and that was the worst mistake I could have done, honestly. I mean, I would have rather, at this point, looking back, that's one regret I have. Is I should have just taken street justice on that SOB, because he didn't get charged, nothing, and they ripped her out of my home. Who knows what happened with her? I don't know. They didn't keep in touch with me, nothing. So it's sad, but that's the way the foster system is.
Yeah. Has sex work continued on in your life?
Yes.
Since strip clubs?
Yes.
In what form? I mean, you're still beautiful, so I can imagine you might have sugar daddies and things like that.
Yeah, I have some sugar daddies. I have 1 or 2 that I like to keep. I've had one of them 20 years.
They take care of you?
Yeah, they take care of me.
There you go.
Yeah. I actually got into doing porno after I got into the car accident, because I didn't have to be on my feet, so to speak. So I got into that. I won an award for Best Newcomer in '93. So that was interesting. That was fun. But yeah, then I just started escorting. I figured, why not? Bringing pleasure to somebody who is unhappy with their current situation for whatever reason, and I'm bringing them joy.
It's an interesting attitude to have about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been embarrassed about it. I've never been ashamed of it, because I figure I'm doing society a favor. I'm sure I'm keeping rapists from raping people, and young men who are just frustrated from going out and hurting people because they can't get any kind of release, and they don't, they're so inverted or whatever reason, they can't talk to a girl on their own. So, what I mean? And I just, I've kept regulars, we call them regulars, and just people who are my good friends, they look out for me, they take care of me, and, I've grown to love some of them, just like. So
you've been in love before?
Huh?
You've been in love before?
Yes. I've been in love with a man and a woman, actually, so love is great, I'm not choosy. It just, as long as I know that you love me back, then that's all I need,
What have all these years doing various kinds of sex work taught you about men or about relationships or?
Well, again, sex is sex and love is love, just because you're in love with someone doesn't mean you want to have sex with them, or if you can not be in love with someone and have sex with them. That's a big one. And basically, guys are going to pay for it one way or another. It's a mutual agreement. That way, nobody gets their feelings hurt or feels taken advantage of.
I've heard someone say that sex work for money is more honest than any other form of relationship.
Well, yeah, because you know what to expect
Everyone
and what you're
knows it,
getting
yeah.
and what you want out of it, and there's no front there. They don't have to lie. They don't have to persuade you or trick you into anything, because it's already what we already know what's going to happen.
There's many kinds of relationships.
Yeah, many kinds of relationships, and it's I'm not one to actually get real personal with someone like right off the bat. I like to feel them out. I never kiss. I never kiss people. That's my one thing. I don't kiss. That to me is too intimate.
Even someone you're in love with?
If I'm in love with somebody, yes, I love kissing.
Yeah. But just not your
But
customer.
clients, no. That's my one thing. I will not. You know what I mean? I just don't like it. I just feel it's too intimate. It's a business deal. It's not. Even though a lot of them end up becoming my friends, I still don't kiss them. Even
What was the best decade of your life? Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 49.
49. What was the best decade of your life?
The best decade of my life, I would say, between 29 and 35. That's not a decade, but those are the best times, I think, for me. I spent a lot of time in prison, my whole 20s basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for narcotics and loaded firearms, deadly weapons, things of that nature. And I didn't do 11 straight years. I did 11 years basically, though, because I'd be out for 3 months or 2 months or a day, or and I like to say I was on a rotation, because I was always out like certain times of the year. Like I seemed like I was always out for summer and my birthday, and then I would go in and then just do it all over again. But yeah, 11 years. But back then, it's not like it is today, because actually I waited 10 years and I went back in 2010. I went back for 16 months. And that 16 months that I did was the longest and miserable time than all the time I did before, the 10 years that I did before. It was just miserable, because back when I started going to prison, it was actually kind of fun. We could smoke cigarettes, we could have our own clothes, we got boxes, send in Walkmans, TVs, such and that, And of course, we get a date. So we're going home eventually. And there's drugs in there. There's lots of drugs in there to do. And for some reason, I was always, one of my homegirls was the one running the yard with the dope. So I always walked out the gate strung out. Literally, one time they shut the yard down because I was in the bathroom getting high instead of paroling. Yeah, that's how fun it was. But the time I went in 2010, oh my God, like it's changed so much. Like it's gray and gray shirts, denim jeans that state issue only. It was just miserable. There's no tobacco anymore. Cigarettes have taken the place of heroin, basically. Everybody's on medication rather than heroin or anything illicit like that. Yeah, it's a lot different, and a lot of the youngsters there, a lot of lifers that are young nowadays, which is really kind of scary.
And these are female?
Yeah, females, yeah. Actually, one of my first bunkies when I went to prison was there before I was born. Yeah, her name was Miss Annie, and she was from Florida. Apparently, she killed her nephew. She's passed on now since then, but yeah.
So your life of sex work and drugs and prison and things like that, is that a product of something that happened in your childhood, or is it just product of being a West Virginian, or what?
I think it's a product of the fact that, for one, I was molested by my grandfather, and the fact that my mom just wasn't emotionally there. She just, for whatever reason, she couldn't be. I think she did the best that she could, with what she was given, and with what she's been dealing with. I don't know if I could have lived her life, and because she doesn't use anything. She drinks coffee. She doesn't smoke cigarettes. She doesn't drink alcohol. And she never did. I don't know if I could have done that, being in her shoes. So I never judge people, because you never know. You like to think that you would act and respond a certain way, but you don't know until you're in that person's shoes how you're going to respond. So you can say, "Oh, I would do this or that," but you're bullshitting, because you don't know what you're going to do until you're there, you know. And like I said, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I could have lived her life. You know what I mean? Honestly, as much craziness as I've lived through, and being in shootouts and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, her life that would have killed me, at being young and married. You got kids and take care of, and just all that responsibility, and having other lives to take care of. You know what I mean? And worry and be concerned about. But she did it. She did it, and Brandon. I think I've only remember her having one job in her life. One job the entire time. She was smart about it. She married the right men, I guess. They had money. But like I said, when I was 13, she just wanted to be with him because he treated her good after she was with the jerk for however many years they were together. So I think she felt like she was doing the right thing, and I think that she felt that I would do the right thing. Unfortunately, at that age, what do? We start partying. That's the perfect time, I think that's when you need your parents the most, is about that age,
Young teenager.
Yeah, young, 12, 13, 14, definitely. That's when you know everything, nobody can tell you anything because you already know, and everybody else is stupid, but you're just naive and not ready for what can be out there,
Nancy, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
The most important lesson I've learned is don't judge people, and try to always treat people the way you want to be treated. There's not enough love in the world, and there's nothing wrong with being head over heels in love with someone. There's really not. Too many people are ashamed of that, or embarrassed to say that they're head over heels in love with someone because they feel like it's weak or whatever reason. There's not enough love in the world, and people need to treat each other better.
It's beautiful. Nancy, thank you so much for sharing your story.
All right, thank you.
It's great. Thank you.
All right. A little better this time?
Much better.